Yeah, here's what you need to know.
Okay.
The S&P is about 15 ARR for the past 4 years, and the volatility of the S&P is 15.
Okay.
If you want to own a commodity like silver or soybeans or gold, they have very, very low performance, less than 15%, 5%, 0%. You don't really want to hold soybeans for 100 years. And sometimes they have volatility, but it doesn't last that long. Bitcoin is 60 volatility, 60 ARR, and it is a legal commodity, but it is an economic scarcity. It is the only commodity invented in the history of the human race that's absolutely capped. And so that means you can expect it to keep going up. If I can give you a commodity that outperforms the S&P index, if I can give you a commodity that's more volatile than the S&P index, you can put 100% of your liquid assets in that commodity per SEC rules. I can't do it with a security, by the way. So up until Bitcoin, people had to use gold or real estate as their commodity, or they have to use the US Treasury bill. Those are all underperforming the S&P, and they're less volatile. Bitcoin is the first thing you can use in your treasury that's more volatile, that outperforms the S&P. The result is, if I give you a security, Joe, that outperforms the S&P, how much of it do you want to buy? And if I give you, if you're an ARB or an options trader, and I give you an option that is 4x the volatility of the S&P, or with MicroStrategy, we're 10x the volatility of the S&P, how much of it do you want to trade? So Bitcoin's unique in the history of the capital markets. It's the first scarcity commodity, outperforming the S&P, more volatile than the S&P, that you can put on your balance sheet. I think it'll remain volatile because it's a 24/7, 365 global asset. You can panic sell it on Saturday night. You can enthusiastically buy it on Sunday morning. That's a feature. That's not a bug.
Yeah, you've lived through some of the swings, but do you think we won't see the downturns like we've seen in the past just because of the changes we've seen?
I think it's going to surge through the roof, and then it's going to surge to 180 and crash to 140, and people will be freaking out about it again. But let me make this one analogy. Volatility is like fire, and some people run away from the fire, but Henry Ford put the fire into a carriage via an engine, created an entire industry, and he gave humanity wings.
Bitcoin yield of 2.55%, or over almost 10,000 Bitcoin to shareholders using an arbitrage. Can you explain? Will I be able to understand this if you explain this?
We sold $1.5 billion worth of stock, backed by $500 million worth of Bitcoin. We bought back $1.5 billion of Bitcoin. We captured nearly $1 billion gain in the arbitrage. That we can do with equity day by day. When we do it with debt, we issue $3 billion of debt that's backed by $600 million of Bitcoin that comes due in 5 years. We pay 0% interest. We buy $3 billion of Bitcoin. We capture the $2.4 billion in the arbitrage gain up front. But then over the course of the 5 years, we double or we quadruple the investment because we're buying an asset which is appreciating faster than the S&P.
What you told me was that it's 55% premium over conversion, but a zero coupon. Is that the same?
That was a zero coupon 55. And you can do that because Bitcoin is high vol, and the companies that have Bitcoin on their balance sheet have even higher volatility. So Mara is a great example. 2 weeks ago, they did $1 billion convert, zero coupon, to buy Bitcoin. This week, they're back in the market doing another $1 billion convert, zero coupon, to buy Bitcoin. You can rinse and repeat that frequently.
Tell me what you think, or told Microsoft that they should do, and what are the chances that happen?
Microsoft is buying its own stock back, it's buying bonds, it's dividending out cash flows. If they simply swept their existing cash into Bitcoin, it probably adds $1 trillion to the market cap and $150 to the share price. If they converted the dividend into Bitcoin, adds another $150 to the share price, another $1 trillion to the market cap. If they replace the buybacks with Bitcoin, instead of surrendering the capital, they invest the capital, adds another $1 trillion and $150 to the share price. If they just take a little bit of leverage, they basically take 10% leverage on a huge stack of Bitcoin, they add another $1 trillion. So what I'm saying is, instead of surrendering the capital and then leveraging up the company. Right now, Microsoft trades at 20 times forward expectations. So I'll say it, 95% of the enterprise value of Microsoft is based on expectations, is the best way to say it, right? And that means it's very asset poor, it's expectation rich. Why don't you actually buy assets, and instead of being 95% on expectations, be 50% on expectations, de-risk the company, grow the enterprise value, and feed the digital economy of the future.
What was the response?
The shareholder meeting is December 10th. We'll find out.
What do you expect? Glazed eyes?
I don't have any illusions that mega corporations are going to immediately embrace Bitcoin. But what I do think is it's going to become part of the conversation. And there are about 120 companies that are public that are starting to hold Bitcoin right now. There are a lot of Bitcoin standard companies like Mara, like Saylor, like Metaplanet, like Rumble is getting into the business. And as they start to buy Bitcoin and issue fixed income securities and equity securities, you're going to see demand increase.
So what inning are we in, you think?
Sorry?
What inning? It feels like we're in like the second inning of all, or even, maybe not even.
Yeah, I think we get into the third inning when we cross $100,000.
That's the third inning.
Right now, we're still early.
Years ago, when my brother and I set up Iron, it was done on the premise of this digital world revolution we're going through. So the whole world's going online, the digitization thematic. We quoted movies like The Matrix, Ready Player One. As a society, we're heading that way directionally. And for us, it was all about tying up the scarce resource, power, land, data center capacity. Because fundamentally, what you're dealing with in the digital world is exponential growth, compound growth formulas, where adoption curves go vertical overnight, whether it's Bitcoin being zero 15 years ago to $1 trillion asset today, whether it's AI a year ago, not being spoken about much, to the next biggest thing. And ultimately, leveraging a real asset base, power, land, infrastructure into two of the most exciting exponential themes that I think will define the next decade is super exciting. Talking about requirements of 50 gigawatts, 50 gigawatts by 2030 of new AI data center capacity, according to McKinsey. What we've got, despite it being really big in relative to the existing capacity today, it's a drop in the ocean relative to where we need to go. And this is the whole real world, digital world dislocation. You've got these exponential growth drivers in the digital world, AI, Bitcoin, whatever's around the corner. But the ability to service that is dictated by real world challenges. And there becomes an inflection point where the real world can no longer scale exponentially. You cannot click your fingers and come up with tens of gigawatts of power and land. You cannot plug a computer into a high voltage transmission line. And this time to power narrative, it's absolutely real. It is taking longer. It is getting harder to build all this real world infrastructure to service these digital exponential trends.
We think in the short run, right now the market is actually adjusting to profit taking and reacting to the potential shifts, the political shifts, especially for Donald Trump's re-election, getting into the stage before Donald Trump really became the president. So lots of whales are taking profit because they started accumulating Bitcoin at very early stage, maybe right after FTX went down in 2022 of November. At about 20K-ish. Myself is probably one of them. I actually accumulated lots of Bitcoins at an early stage. So for me, or for a whale like myself, 100K is a profit-taking stage.
How early were you? Give us an idea. Give some context here.
So I did buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP in 2015. At that time, Bitcoin was only 300. But the more accumulating stage for me is right after FTX collapse. And in early 2023.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, the spokesperson for Bitcoin, on his Bitcoin strategy. And all he's doing is leveraging the asset for the fourth industrial revolution. And we know with the help of Morgan Stanley and BlackRock. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. And he says that Bitcoin will remain volatile. And we probably only have 4 more years of Bitcoin's volatility. Because once the NWO finishes this fourth industrial revolution, we're going to go a whole 10 years with no growth. The robots, algorithms, and drones have taken this economy over, and the sheep are going inside the metaverse. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. And Michael Saylor speaks with Microsoft about adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet. And the way he sounded, it looks like they said no. But we'll get the popcorn, sit back, and let it play out. Now we have Irene, CEO, talking about the digital world. Bitcoin and AI scaling these data centers and all the power it's going to need. And he brought up all the movies that are now becoming reality, like The Matrix. And we have Gracie Chen talking about profit-taking season from the whales. And Bitcoin and crypto have these 4-year cycles, and we pump and dump in between. But like I told you guys, in the first quarter, I definitely see us getting a pullback unless we see someone making a move like Janet Yellen did last year. Now we have China responds on U.S. chip export restriction. Now China bans rare minerals to the U.S. And they're going to step up these distractions to keep the sheep distracted while they build. We know at the end of the day, all these countries are working together to move us to this fourth industrial revolution. We know the NWO caused the problem, wait for the reaction, and run in with the solution. And we had South Korean president declared martial law and then lifted it. Said he was trying to save the free republic. And the opposition was coming from North Korea. And when you listen to all these news channels, they say they don't know why he did it. He clearly explained why he did it. We know the United States was a republic. And don't forget, the United States right now was the last free nation. But that's dwindling away. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. Because he knows, when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
We got some potentially devastating news that the U.S. was putting on new sanctions to the Chinese when it came to high-tech goods. Then almost immediately the Chinese fired back with what's being called a mineral ban, blocking the U.S. from getting key metals like gallium and germanium that we need for electric vehicle batteries, semiconductors. Holy cow, are things finally spinning out of control? I heard it all day nonstop that they are. But if so, how is it possible that the market just yawns? The Dow dipping 76 points, S&P inching up 0.05%, and the NASDAQ, epicenter, advancing 0.4% to a new record high? How can this be? How can the market be so wrong about this drastic trade war between the world's first and second largest economies? Or maybe, just maybe, does the market know something we don't? As we get closer to the change in Washington, I think we have to start thinking on a dual track toward our nemesis, the PRC. One track, punitive, and the other track gloriously benign, at least if you own stocks. First, let's just point out that the sanctions announced by our government yesterday were unexpected, even if you misleadingly heard that they weren't. When I first heard about the scope of them, I gulped, as my charitable trust owns a bunch of semis that I thought would be crushed by the punishment our country was meting out to China. Supposedly, our government was cracking down on all sorts of semiconductor capital equipment companies and the makers of high bandwidth memory. I figured there goes the semi-neighborhood. I had them all going down. Applied Materials, Lam Research. They should be obliterated. They make the best equipment, have the huge China exposure. I figured Micron, our biggest high bandwidth memory company, would just get clubbed. I assumed AMD and NVIDIA would get hit too, because whenever our government hits China with trade sanctions, well, you know what happens then. But what did occur? Every one of those stocks soared.
Latest tit for tat in U.S.-China trade relations, Beijing retaliating against the latest chip export restrictions by announcing it will no longer send certain critical minerals to the U.S. CNBC's Megan Cassell's got the details on this. Megan. Hey, Melissa, that's right. A real ratcheting up of trade tensions with this move today from China to ban the sales of these rare minerals to the U.S. effective immediately. Now, this, of course, was a response to the Biden administration's move on Monday to restrict the export of some chips and chip-making equipment and software to China in order to slow Beijing's development of advanced weaponry and AI systems being used by the military. Beijing today rejected the U.S. justification of that move, saying Washington has generalized the concept of national security in recent years and abused export control measures. Their response today represents a real significant stepping up of these tensions, not entirely unexpected, as they did begin laying the groundwork to make this move possible over the past year, but it could only be a first step, given, of course, the additional tariffs that Donald Trump is vowing to impose when he takes office to make weapons. But they're also in a number of consumer goods, phones, computers, cars, all industries, Melissa, that could feel an impact as this trade and tech war between the U.S. and China starts to heat up. Melissa.
친애하는 국민 여러분, through this martial law, I will rebuild and protect the Free Republic of Korea, which is falling into the depths of national ruin.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets. Now,
it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy. And you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.